Hi, Bill. How are you? I think you're muted.
Sorry, Sharon didn't get the information.
Ah,
How do we get back on? There we go. Is that Robert? Robert, you're muted. Left-hand corner of the screen, there's a microphone.
All right, can you hear me now, Bill?
Yes, we can.
Good. And who's that, Joyce T? Tom?
yeah, Tom Joyce.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
Nice to meet you too.
And that's his cat.
Nothing to be done about it.
Nope.
Hi there, Sarah.
Hello.
So you've had a big day and you're still with us. That's just lovely to see.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I am a director of annual giving for a living, and today's Giving Tuesday, so it's kind of like the Super Bowl for fundraisers.
So how did you do? Did you score big?
Yeah, we're doing quite well. We're definitely going to make our goal by midnight. So
Wonderful.
see, I know Kim is on her way, and she might be a minute or two late, but she'll be here. There's Dusty and Pam.
Hi, Dusty.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Terry.
There we go.
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I can.
Okay, I had to switch laptops because my office laptops, I couldn't hear anybody on for some reason.
All right. Do we have everybody we're expecting from the budget committee?
No, I'm expecting a couple more.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, there's
Sharon
Kim.
said she hadn't gotten the instructions. Oh, there's one more. I just sent her the instructions a few minutes ago.
Okay, great. We'll give it another minute.
I'm here if you're looking for me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, my downstairs computer didn't want to cooperate.
That seems to be an issue tonight.
Well, I don't know. It always worked before.
However, we can only see the top of your head, Kathy.
Well, wait a minute. I haven't had time. I just got here. Wait a minute. I gotta move. Yeah, there we go. Oh, Christ.
We could see your halo, but maybe that was sufficient.
I don't know. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
It's not zipping anymore. Well, I'm mouthy enough so you'll hear me. Okay, what else do I have to do? I guess I'm all set. I see Terry.
Yep.
Okay.
The budget committee's here.
Okay, great.
Well, I've been here too,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry, we're missing one.
Okay.
that was Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Kathy.
I'm so low tech, it's pathetic.
We're missing Stephen Wallace, and we're usually missing him, so I would go ahead if that's all we're waiting for.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Bill. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:02. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. I know this is an extra meeting for both committees. So I know the select board wanted to add one business license to the agenda, just as in terms of some housekeeping. We can, if the board's good with that, we can do that at the end. So budget committee members, we can go through our full discussion and then we won't keep you for that item. Select board members, is that cool? Good with you to add the business license approval?
Yeah.
Okay, looking for, all right. Great, so we'll add that after. And then, all right. So I thought perhaps, I'm not sure if everybody actually knows each other. So I thought we could just do super brief introductions, just your name and which committee you're on. So Sarah Whitfield, I'm the chair of the select board, and if you just want to tag the next person. So Terry, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Terry Heller, and I'm on the select board. And I tag Dusty.
I'm Dusty and I'm on the select board. And I tag Bill.
No,
Bill
you
Maloney.
tag him.
Budget committee, I'll go to Anna.
I'm Anna. I'm on the budget committee and I will tag Kim.
Kim,
Oh.
you're muted.
You're still muted, Kim.
You're
No.
muted.
No,
Bottom left-hand corner.
How's that?
There you go.
Okay, Kim Dolce, Budget Committee.
Hi, Kim.
We have a new member on the budget committee, and that's Robert Jones. Robert,
Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Jones, Budget Committee.
Hello.
and
and do we have Tom yet?
Yeah. Tom Joyce, Budget Committee.
but we
And
need
Kat?
Pam. Yeah, hi, Tom. We need Pam to speak up. for the
Waiting
select-
to be tagged.
Tag.
Pam Dunning, Select Board.
We have Sharon Jakes here somewhere. Sharon? You had her.
Don't see her now.
No,
And then Kathy.
Yes, I'm here. Kathy, I'm on the budget committee.
All right, great. So I thought we would start, if it's okay with everyone, I actually thought we would start with the a brief discussion of the FY13 budget meeting schedule. I thought that actually might be helpful in terms of sort of laying out the process and then kind of go from there. So Dennis, would you mind kind of kicking us off?
Sure. I think I'll actually start backwards too and say that we need to have this process completed by no later than April 6th.
Is that April?
April 6th. We have to have the warrant to the town clerk 60 days before the election. So we have to be somewhere in the area of April 6th. So that does give us some time. So as far as the schedule goes for the selectmen and the budget committee, I'm going to let you guys figure that out tonight, what you want to do. Last year we did some Saturdays. I thought that worked relatively well. But my goal for you is we're working on the capital stuff this month. The department heads have to have their budget requests into me by January 14th. I will spend 2 weeks going through them. And my goal is to have the draft budget to you at your meeting on February the 2nd. Not really to discuss on February the 2nd, but just to get you the draft document and the reports that go along with it so that you'll have some time to look at it and study it. And then my suggestion is that we have our first budget meeting on the 13th and go from there. But that's open for you guys. I think the Saturday things worked pretty well. And I'd suggest we do that again this year. Excuse me if I'm hoarse. I got my COVID booster today and I seem to be reacting to it a little bit.
All right, great. Thank you, Dennis. And I'd really like this to be a collaborative process in terms of having some actual discussions at these budget meetings. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have this sort of kickoff meeting today. So sounds like, sorry, I've got a cat pushing things over. In any case, it sounds like we've got some time. So thank you, Dennis, and we can come back to the meeting schedule, but I just wanted Dennis to kind of give us the general dates in terms of what we're looking at for timeline. So going back to A, reviewing the adequacy of the current year appropriated funds and revenues. Hopefully everyone received the expense and revenue summary reports that were sent. I don't know, Dennis, if you wanted to say anything as a beginning. I had a couple questions. I'm sure others have some as well.
I think it might be best if we just go down through the document, each department, and they can ask questions as we go along.
Right. All right. And if you just want to, I'll do my best to, I've got everybody on my screen, I believe. So if you just want to throw up a hand or say hello, if you have a question as we go through these, and I'll make sure to call on you. So starting on page 1, account 100, administration. Any questions there? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, was it Tim or Tom?
Tom, but I'll answer either. That's fine. So why is services up?
Well, that actually needs a budget adjustment. The services that it's referred to in there is actually a postage meter. And that should have been distributed to all the offices that use it. And it wasn't, it was just taken strictly out of the administrative line. So there'll be a budget adjustment there.
Okay, one of the things, just as to comment that I don't know if it's available for these discussions, that would certainly help me, is some sense of seasonality. Because when I look at these documents, you can sort of overall get a sense of where things are, but without getting an understanding of where we are relative to historical flows in and out. If it's behind now, but it catches up in May every year, that kind of thing would be very useful to be able.
I will answer those questions for you as we go along.
Okay.
Any other questions on administration at this point?
Yeah, I do, Sarah. What's the difference between personnel and staff?
Personnel is salaries and staff is FICA, Medicare, retirement.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. Anna?
Are there any upcoming large seasonal expenses that we expect would put us over budget, since a lot of these budgets are tracking according to where we are at through the year?
No. Right, now I can say that. As we get into individual budgets, I'll explain some caveats that may come along with that.
Moving down to the airport, and if I missed your question, just speak up and I'll grab you. Moving down to the airport, questions there.
So by way of an explanation on some of the revenues here, the revenue for fuel sales is zero. That revenue, there's a special revenue account for fuel sales that we keep track of. The fuel sales profit, if you will be added in at the end of the year. So that will be a zero until we get to the end of the year. Plain excise tax is a zero because that's only billed out once a year.
Tom?
And what is leases?
Leases are the land leases for the hangars.
Okay, and how does that flow?
That's billed yearly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Moving down to animal control. I was just wondering,
Well,
what
Sarah,
other,
did anybody have any questions on the airport expenses?
I don't think so. Okay. Nope, doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Moving down to animal control, I had a question just on other expenses. No idea what that was, but I just noticed it's already at 90%.
Yep, that's the one-time fee that we pay to the shelter, Midco
Okay,
shelter.
great.
So that's a one-time payment fee. So it was $588 less than what we figured it was going to be.
Great.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. Under the expenses, under animal control, I'm just curious. What is the control officer or whomever paying $6,000 for in other expenses, or $7,000 in services?
Well, the other expenses is the animal shelter fee that we pay once a year for them taking stray animals that we take over there.
Is that in Midcoast Humane?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And services?
The services is this is a contracted service. We don't do this ourselves. The county does this. So the services is the contracted service.
What is the service?
Animal control. They provide the animal control.
Okay.
And they bill us based on calls.
Gotcha.
Right. Good with that?
Okay. Moving down to assessing. Any questions?
Again,
Yes.
under services, this is our municipal software program that's shared amongst various different departments. It is prorated around those departments depending on how they use them. That's a one-time fee as well. So you'll see that prop up in assessing, in finance, in clerk, in some other departments, but I'll try to point it out as we go along.
Okay, so that was going to be my question, is not in all categories are we high on services year to date, but in some. Is that the answer to most of those questions, or are they more kind of one-off?
Yes, anything that's really unusually out of place, I will let you know. And there are a couple of concerns that I do have when we get to them, so.
Okay. Any other questions on assessing? Okay. Boards and committees? Any questions there? Okay. Celebrations?
So the celebrations account is nearly expended because of fireworks. That's $9,500 of that budget, so. That's a
Okay.
one-time thing.
Moving down to clerk. Any questions on the clerk's account?
And again, services, that's Trio, is the town software account.
Okay. CEO? Any questions there?
I would like to point out that his revenue is way above target, which means that there's still a whole lot of building going on in town. That doesn't seem to be slowing down too much.
Yeah, I noted the planning board line was up in a good way.
Yep. Well, and some of that is other solar projects because their planning board fees are relatively high. But I mean, if you look at building permits, he's way over budget on building permits. So I mean, you know, the housing thing is still booming.
Kim,
No.
you're muted.
Oh, wrong Kim. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Sorry.
yes, we have two.
You called me out again. I was just wondering if we had any thoughts on increasing that from a part-time job.
The CEO.
No, not CEO. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about Bruce.
Yeah, we are talking about
Sure.
Bruce.
Yeah.
I hadn't planned on it.
I mean, I just think we're really busy and he's spread thin, and it's something we may want to kick around because he's what, 20 hours a week?
20 hours a week. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been spread thin, and there is a lot of building. Just something that I thought about in the past.
I'm not sure that actually Bruce himself would be interested in more hours than what he's got, but
Well, it doesn't have to. I mean, the position.
right. But
If there's a demand.
we can look at it.
Right, community organizations.
Hold on, I gotta change pages here.
That
Yep,
goes on.
so most of those are paid once out of the year, except for the library, which is the biggest contribution here, and that gets paid twice a year. Yes, Pam, I will look at it.
Okay, moving down to contingency. Okay,
I would
Contract-
appreciate a little narrative. Yeah, we need a little more narrative from Dennis when we hit each category. That would help a lot.
Well, the contingency account is the selectman's contingency. That's for expenses that we might not have anticipated that might put a budget over budget that we can use for, or something comes up and the selectmen want to spend some money on something that's there. So the $8,806 that was taken out of this account was the cleanup out on Lowell Town Road for the dangerous building. That was the cost of cleaning that. Now, that 8,800 plus all the other expenses that we incurred, like legal expenses, are being added to that property as a special tax assessment. So at some point, we will get that money back.
Pam, did you have a question?
Dennis just answered it.
Okay,
And I think the total on that was right around 11,000 and change. So, it's a fairly substantial amount of money. We sent them the original bill for the $11,000. They didn't pay it. We didn't expect that they would, but it'll be added to their tax assessment. So.
okay, great. Moving down to contracts.
Contracts is where most of our legal line is, our town legal expenses, our labor legal expenses, the legal expenses for Maine Yankee, that we will start to see this budget take off as we get into those negotiations with Maine Yankee over their upcoming tax assessment. And there's some engineering fees and consulting fees in there as well. So, you can expect to see that it's low now, but it won't stay there for long.
Yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to ask on things like that, Dennis, with this level of information, it's difficult to say anything about.
As we get into the budget season, Tom, you'll get much more detailed reports and show all the details for this stuff.
I guess what I'm saying is, as we go through this on something like that, I mean, you answered the question. It'd be useful if you could say, is there any reason why you think we might blow past that budget number in this category? Mainline.
I have some concerned budgets that I'm going to, when we get to them, I will tell you
Okay.
that I have some
Thank you.
concern about. Yep.
Okay. Dusty?
Yeah, just going back to the contingency, I'm looking at my printout here that shows the last year's budget. Contingency went up $20,000 from last year to this year. Why was that?
The selectmen asked for more money.
Yep.
That was it.
Yeah. Well, last year we did 30,000 and we spent all of it.
Okay.
Kathy?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Dusty's comment about it being up. We did carry over, add to this year's budget, 20,000 plus for the assessor, the audit that didn't get paid for in last fiscal year. So that was carried forward to this year. So that might be a reflection of that carry forward.
No, not in the contingency. It's not.
Oh, I thought he was in contract. I'm sorry.
No. In
My
the-
Sorry, I
mistake.
went back.
Sorry.
Same amount of money, but different category.
All right. Anything else on contingency or contracts? Okay. Moving down to county tax.
That's pretty self-explanatory. They send us a bill, we send them a check. There's not a whole lot that we can do about that.
Okay. Down to debt service.
Kathy, do you want to explain what's all in debt service? You know that better than I do.
So most of what you see in that Department 112 is a school withdrawal bond that was originally $2 million, and it's a 10-year note. And the annual payments on that are approximately $216,000. And then there also is an allotment for a TAN, a tax anticipation note, and the interest on that if we choose or need to go out for a tax anticipation note. So that's what's in that budget. That's it.
And I do not anticipate that we'd have to go out for tax anticipation note. The town's cash flow is very decent right now, so.
Any questions there?
When do we stop paying on this? Is it in 24?
I'd have to look it up. Kathy, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but it was sometime, I think Bill is around in the ballpark, either 23 or 24.
I can look it up for you, Bill, and email it to you.
Thank you.
Dusty?
I just wanted, Kathy sort of got some digital noise there when you were talking. Did you mention the bond for school withdrawal?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if that was washed out by the static.
Okay. Moving down to elections. Questions?
I think that one's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. And then moving down to EMS.
So EMS is one of those budgets that I have a little bit of concern about this year. Revenue-wise, they seem to be okay, and budget-wise, they are okay as of this moment. We've had some discussion with the select board about EMS salaries because of all of the neighboring departments increasing their hourly rates, and we're going to have to do something with them this year, or we're not going to have anybody left. Just very recently, in the last couple of days, we learned that Booth Bay upped their rates. They're paying their paramedics $28 an hour, and we're paying ours $8.20. So for $8 an hour is a very huge difference. I've been discussing this with Aaron off and on. CLC went up to 23 with theirs and 26 for a 5-year paramedic or over. We feel that if we go the 23, that we'll be fine, that the people that we have will stay here. I've gone through this pretty carefully in their budget, and I think we can do it within their existing budget and still stay under budget, but it's going to be we'll have to watch it very carefully.
And not to, I'm going to ask a quick question, not to put you on the spot on that, but if we did that increase, what kind of a year over year for next year might be, what might be?
Hold on just a second and I can tell you.
While you're doing that, Erin, is that a kitten? She's
Yes, she her mommy died when she was only 3 weeks old, and so we had to bottle feed her and her sister, and she thinks I'm her mommy. So she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go to sleep because you're home." So
oh, adorable.
So Tom, we're looking at about an additional 57,000 for the whole year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, questions?
That would be additional. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions on EMS? Pam?
Yeah, Dennis, can you tell me, is that one of the departments, isn't that one of the departments that can go over budget legally?
No.
That is not?
No.
Okay.
There's the only budgets that we can legally overspend are general assistance and winter maintenance for the roads. But we don't budget separately for winter maintenance for the road. It's part of the public works budget. So that's kind of a dicey area.
I had thought that some emergency services were included that as well, but
No,
that's not the case. Okay, I was misinformed.
No. Because remember, EMS is not considered an essential service. So I know that's
Really?
hard. People don't understand that. I think there's a lot of misconception about EMS and what they do and how they're funded and all of that. But it is not in this state, it is not considered an essential service. It's actually only an essential service in 11 states across the country.
Wow.
Any other questions on revenue or expenses for EMS at this point? Moving down
Actually,
to,
yes, I did have one question. So what is the insurance cover, just out of curiosity? Is that liability or is that health insurance or what is that, Dennis?
That's all the insurance, liability, health insurance, property, casualty, everything's in there.
And is our insurance in this category and other places we pay insurance going up this year over year?
We know health insurance is going up 2% this year.
Yeah.
But with a lot of our insurances, it becomes a little difficult to try to do because they run their insurance bills on a calendar year and we run our business on a fiscal year. So we know what the 6-month premium is going to look like, but beyond that, we don't have visibility. We have to take a stab. So we usually figure around 10%. So.
okay. Moving down to fire department.
I will tell you the fire department looks good right now, but they only get paid once every 6 months. And so you'll see in January a difference because they get paid in December. So that's why the personnel line really doesn't have any expenses out of it.
Okay. Any questions there? Okay. Moving down to finance.
So finance is the treasurer, which I currently am. So we're not really paying for a treasurer right at the moment. Tax collector and the accounts payable clerk. And again, under services, there's a trio in there. It's a little higher for here because it's the treasurer and the tax collector, and they all three use that, so. But that's, again, a one-time thing, so some of those one-time things will, as you know, will cause these budgets to kind of catch up over a period of time.
Any questions there?
Beg your pardon, was that a question?
No, I think that was a cough
Okay.
or papers.
Hard to
Alright.
tell, right?
Oh, Sharon, what was that?
I said that's hard to tell nowadays whether it was
It
a
is.
cough or papers.
Kim, did you have a question?
Yes, I know that Dennis and also Kathy are taking over for the treasurer position. But Dennis, you say you're not being paid for that?
No, but Kathy is, because she's actually doing most all of the work.
Okay.
And so her salary is being divided up between the treasurer's budget and the administration budget. So she spends some hours doing as administrative assistant, which we charge against that budget. And then the time that she spends doing treasurer's work, we charge against the treasurer's budget.
Okay, so I may be wrong, but I had assumed Vernice was full-time when she was here. So Kathy, obviously juggling multiple things, is probably not a treasurer full-time. So has that affected the salaries in that department?
Well, yes, because the treasurer not being full-time, we're not taking 40 hours out of the treasurer's budget.
Okay.
And she's very busy.
Yes.
You can imagine, but she's doing a great job, and she actually really likes doing it. So
good.
She's gonna slap me later. She's gonna slap me later, but.
Other questions on finance? Okay. Moving down to general administration.
So this is general assistance. So
Oh,
this
sorry.
is yep, that's okay. So this is when, people are in need of a place to stay or rental assistance or, things of that nature. Kathy does do that job as well. There is some personnel costs there because when she does spend time doing GA, we take her out of the GA account. The other expenses category that's there is what that's where the vouchers for fuel oil or rental assistance or whatever comes from. The state does reimburse us, I think 70%, right, Kathy, for what we spend in general assistance.
Questions there? Okay, seeing none. Moving down to, I assume that means municipal building?
Yep. This is just for the expenses for keeping the town office up and running, and utilities and heat and maintenance and so on and so forth. There's a staff expense with this. That's what Steve Wallace does. He comes in and does the trash and washes the floors and vacuums and cleans and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Going down to municipal insurance.
Kathy, you want to explain that again? That's one of those areas where I think you're better at it than I am.
So the municipal insurance line covers our property and casualty insurance, unemployment, workman's comp. It used to be at one point, I think it was the workman's comp that was divided up into every single municipal budget. But a couple of years ago, the board voted to put that all into the insurance line and not, so we get a picture of how much we actually spend for insurances all together there. So basically that's what that does not include health insurance. Those are in the individual budgets.
Okay, thank you. Any questions there?
And most of that gets paid quarterly. So, and it gets paid at the first of the quarter. So this budget has 2 quarters that we've already paid out of it.
Yep.
So that's why it's 45%, but we're within budget. So.
Okay, moving down to overlay.
Overlays the money we set aside for tax abatements. So,
Okay. Moving down to Parks and Rec. Tom?
Yeah, so I guess just the question applies to a number of these categories, Dennis, where we've got Alma, Westport, Dresden as zeros. Are those just timing issues as well? Do they like get paid in January or something?
yeah, I'm not actually sure why they haven't been paid yet, because I think they usually get paid sooner than this. But they will get paid. There's no question that they pay.
Do those get negotiated every year, or is there like a built-in annual increase in them, or how does that all work?
I don't know that we've built in an annual increase in the last couple of years. Certainly something I think we need to look at this year. A lot of our fees and things I think we really need to take a look at to see where we're at. Not only with Parks and Rec, but going back to the EMS, because we do bill Dresden and Westport Island. We're going to have to take a hit on some of the expenses here, and we're going to have to pass some of that along to them. I mean,
and is that the same for transfer station when we get to that? Is that the same discussion?
Yes. The transfer station, how that's done is based on Kathy, is it population or populate? Yeah, based on population. So.
Okay. Kim?
2 years ago, when I was on the budget committee, there was discussion of fees, and I know that Parks and Rec have raised fees. I remember those discussions a couple of years ago in select board meetings, and I went and took a look at some of the numbers I had from a couple of years ago on the website. Now, I don't know if they've updated their website, but it looks as if monthly fees, membership fees, have gone up, but yearly ones have stayed the same. So there's an even wider gap between, on the yearly fees, between our community center and surrounding community centers. So that I think that's concerning.
Everything is on the table when it comes to the budget this year, and looking at fees. Now mentioning fees, and this doesn't apply to Parks and Rec because we're free to set whatever fees we wish to with this. A lot of the fees that we charge are set by the state. So a lot of these things we just don't have any control over.
Example?
Vehicle registration fees.
Oh, sure, of course.
Excise tax, but some of the fees that we get paid for doing some of the state work, they set those fees, and we just have to accept what they are. So.
And just to clarify, Kim, are you saying our yearly fees are lower than surrounding towns?
Yeah, well, we have two sets of fees, the community partnership, I think they call it, and then the standard rate. And I took a look at it when I was on budget and compared it to, I probably don't have it in front of me. Yeah, I do. I compared it to, I think, Booth Bay and Bath. And a couple of years ago, I mean, we were considerably lower than both of those. And I know that every community center has different facilities, but ours is lovely. And I was thrilled when they started raising the prices, but what's online, those numbers for yearly fees are identical to what I had in a table that I put together 2 years ago.
Okay.
So monthly ones have gone up.
Yep. Okay, well, maybe that's something we can ask Dwayne about at the next meeting.
That will be part of the process that I go through with Dwayne on drafting his budget is, where are your fees at? And, are we in line with what we should be getting? So.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Is it the YMCA's like Booth Bay and Bath's YMCA that we're talking about?
Yes, that's what I compared to.
Yeah, and if I can say, I also think that our services here at the Wisconsin Community Center, we actually offer more than Booth Bay or Bath as far as services. So the
As someone
fees being
who
the
goes to
same.
the
Should the-
YMCA, I know that I can go to anywhere in the state that has a YMCA and go to that, where with our community center, you only can go there. So I don't know if that's something you want to think about. I just don't want people to be like, well, I'm not going to go to the community center because I live in Dresden, so we get to go to the one here. So, but it's like, why would I sign up for that one if I can only go there when I can go to Augusta, or I can go to Booth Bay, or I can go to Bath and I don't have to pay any extra. So I don't know, want to go outrageous with those costs. That's all.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Parks and Rec?
You know, his revenue is doing pretty well this year. You know, he's above estimates. But having said that, we did cut his revenue estimate this year as well. This was one of those departments that we just didn't know what was going to happen with COVID, and whether it was going to be able to stay open, or whether we were going to have to close, or whether people weren't going to come out and participate in these things. But, you know, I think the opposite actually happened. I think people seem to be, you know, memberships are up and people are utilizing the facility. So.
Right. Moving to planning, I believe this is. Oh,
Before
sorry,
you move
Dusty.
I want to move backwards again, just to ask a question about overlay. Sorry to keep backing up, but we're going through a lot of information kind of quickly. The budget report that Kathy put out for me in September, Dennis, has the overlay, nothing budgeted for 2022. There's a 0 in that column, but on this one, we've got 42,000. So what happened? How did that change?
I guess Kathy would have to answer that, because we never would budget 0 for overlay. I don't think even legally we can.
You don't budget for overlay because that's determined at your tax commitment time. So they put everything in, and then your overlay is an amount that you guys agree upon, no more than, I think it's 5% of your budget, but that's not budgeted. It's determined at your time of commitment. You should see it in a budget now, perhaps, because once it's committed, then those adjustments are made.
Okay, so $43,000 since September, 43,819 has been committed as an overlay or an abatement.
That money is for property tax abatements.
Okay.
So remember, we kind of had the discussion about overlay back when we were determining the tax rate. The amount of overlay helped to determine somewhat what your mill rate was going to be. So we went from the 2012 that we were down to the 2008 because we accepted the lower overlay from the assessor, but we carried over what was left over last year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So Dusty, you'll see this on this report that you have. It does have a budget. Does have a budget amount of 43,819.
I'm going to do well if I keep my voice here tonight.
Yeah, the one that we're all looking at that has expenses and revenues together, but I've got one that's different. You printed it out for me in September. And
Right, but they probably hadn't committed to taxes.
yeah, that's what I was wondering, if that was the reason for that. So that shows
Okay.
up on the later one.
Yep.
All right. So now moving on to planning.
So planning, we contract with Lincoln County. That's 0 because we haven't gotten a bill yet. So.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Any other questions there, Kim?
I'm wondering, I know this has been in here, I think, for 2 years now.
Mhm.
Will this roll over into next year, or will it be tossed into some other bucket to put towards taxes, which sometimes happens, and then have to be put in the budget anew?
I don't think there'll be any money left because we kind of already know how much these bills are going to be. It was rolled over this year because they didn't give us the bill for last year yet. They're behind on doing their stuff. It wasn't rolled over just because we wanted the extra funds. We just hadn't paid it yet. So I don't anticipate there'll be a whole lot of this left. So this budget contains 2 years worth of contract.
Right. So what services are we getting? Since I had thought we would have we were looking to have an active planner from the county. No?
So this is the mechanic. Emily Raby at the County Planning Office is doing most of it. She spends most of her time assisting the planning board with doing their work. And the planning board, I can tell you, really appreciates this and how this has gone. She also assists me with doing a lot of grants that we're working on. She's better at doing grants than I am. But we get some dedicated service out of this. So that's why we pay, in addition to the county tax, we're paying a little bit more for this. But the planning board work she's doing is well worth what we're paying for this.
Okay.
It made the process a whole lot more efficient.
I would suggest that if whoever it is of value, what they're doing, that you might want to let people know what's happening so that that is something that people are interested in voting for next year, because the planning had been voted out. And I mean, I wasn't aware, I pay attention and I wasn't aware of what was going on behind the scenes with this person.
Yeah, well, and I have reported to the select board a couple of times what she's done and you know, the feedback that I've gotten from the planning board, so.
Yeah, Kim, I think that's a great point. I'm on the ORC as a liaison and go to all the planning board meetings for the paper. And I can tell you, there is a 100% difference in the support that the planning board receives and business owners and folks who want to build things and all that. I mean, it's just night and day in the best way possible. And she's even put together sort of simplified checklists that people who want to get a building permit or a business license or whatever. So that's huge. And on a personal note, I'd like us to consider putting in a full-time planner for this next year. But I think you're right. We need to be telling the story of the good work that this is providing. So.
And I think part of the reason why I suggested we go with this contracted planner was to show the town exactly that, what the value of this planner is. And I think this contract is showing that, so.
Right. It's unfortunate. I think when we had a full-time planner in the past, spent an awful lot of time just running around attending like every meeting that there was, and spending less time doing the sorts of things that this person sounds like they're doing.
Bill?
Dennis, to piggyback on that, should let people know too, the work, I guess it's a she, did on the senior project, the old elementary school too. This is something what we were pushing for with Planner was to do some economic development, get some more businesses in here. And that's one of the things that helped.
Yeah, I get that, Bill. She didn't work on that at all. That was
I thought she did.
Mostly me and the town attorney and the developers. So, but yes, I take your point. I understand that. You know, we'll try to get that word out a little more often than we are.
Another thing that Emily did was just this last week, she put together the summary of all of the marinas in the report for the Waterfront Committee. So, you know, she has contributed a lot.
Any other questions on planning? Okay, seeing none. Moving down to police.
I think police department's pretty self-explanatory.
Sharon, were you trying to say something?
No, I was just clearing my voice. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I wonder if Chief Larry has anything that he wants to add since he's with us.
Is he still with us?
Yeah.
Yes.
There.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Oh, Larry, you're on mute.
He's muted.
You're muted. Hard to find on a phone.
Yeah.
speaking of phone. Larry, you cannot be heard. Larry, would you unmute?
Yeah, he's saying can't do
It's
it.
gone.
You're
Yeah.
saying no, huh?
That's all
Okay.
right.
Got it.
Hello?
Okay.
Yes.
Hold on.
Okay. Well, we can come back if anybody has any additional questions.
Give me a call back in about an hour.
If he can't speak, we can cut his budget.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, moving down to Police Department SRO, which is zeroed out at this point.
Yep, you know, the voters had the ultimate say as to what they spend their money on, and this was one of those that they didn't want to spend their money on, so. And I guess we will have to have the discussion as to whether we're gonna try to bring it back, resurrect it, or not do it, or, you know, that will be part of our budget discussion.
I think it's an important resource to discuss, yes.
What is SRO?
School resource officer.
Say again?
School resource officer.
Okay, thank you.
And I do recall looking at the budget committee recommendations on that, and since they were split, I think that my opinion, but it influences the public vote because they look at how all of us vote. But so if there's a way to bring back the school resource officer, I'd like to see that go back in the budget. Don't know if that's the place to say that, but
So, you know, this has been one of those budgets that's been close over the years anyways. This is one of the closer budgets that they've had. I know Terry is putting in for grants up there to try to get some grants to fund it through the school so that it can be taken out of the municipal budget altogether. And if Larry I know Larry has talked with her, but I haven't talked to her recently or as to where they're at with that, but I know
I think
she
it was
is
a
3
3-to-1 vote in the budget committee when it came up for our vote. So it wasn't split, it was 3-to-1. I think it's
Larry,
important.
oh.
And I think that Larry, if I can say, has been trying to budget it with the school finances, but has been trying to budget and find money in the police department. But their budget is, needed. We don't have a lot of officers. We don't have a lot of their overtime. Nobody wants to work in the field right now. I think it's important that we look at that.
I see Anna and Pam. Larry, did you want to? I saw you were able to get off mute there. I didn't know if you wanted. Now you're back on mute, but.
Okay, I'll go because I had my hand up if that's okay. I'm curious from listening to some of the discussions surrounding this issue if it has been discussed to spend the same amount of budget for a slightly different position, perhaps a social support services position.
There's been no discussion of any type of alternative.
Might be worth having that discussion.
That's what this process is all about.
Perfect. Thanks, Dennis.
Pam?
Yeah, hi. My comment was I was going to ask if people would please raise their hand to speak, because when you're speaking on top of each other and interrupting, I can't understand who's talking and what's being said. So if you please raise your hand first and let the person speaking finish before you start talking.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on the SRO before we move down? Okay. Public utilities.
Public utilities are what we pay for hydrants and streetlights. So, I mean, you can see we're doing pretty well on that.
Any questions there? Seeing none, moving down to public works.
Public Works, again, pretty self-explanatory. They're pretty well under budget. However, this is one of those that we watch carefully this time of the year because it really is going to depend on what happens with Old Man Winter. If they throw a lot of snowstorms at us and we start racking up a lot of overtime, that's when we have to start watching this budget very carefully. So it's good to see it coming in fairly well under budget at this point.
Tom?
And is the repairs and maintenance kind of a one-time thing, or is that running generally high overall?
Yeah, I to be honest, Tom, I don't know. I didn't get a chance. I didn't think to ask. I did see that, and I just didn't get a chance to ask. Didn't think to ask Ted about it. So I will look into that. No, where did we put? Nope, that's different. Nope. I will look into that. Thank you.
Dusty?
Where do we stand with like road repairs? If we're under budget there, I think the last time I asked this question, I was told we're short on employees. Is that still the case?
That is still the case, though we did hire somebody yesterday. I hope anyways, they need to pass their pre-employment physical. I'm actually come down to even trying to call the jail to see if I can get some work release people to come and help shovel sidewalks and do some stuff.
So do we have a schedule for road maintenance and repairs, and are we ahead of schedule or are we behind schedule, or where are we?
That is, I asked Ted earlier this week to get me an inventory of all the streets in town, what needs to be done and when, so that we can have that discussion as part of our capital budget.
Okay, don't have a sense of it now?
I don't know.
Okay. Can we fix a point in time in the future to revisit that? Because it seems to get a little higher in some spots.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sharon?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Dennis, can you look into that work release program to see what we can get?
Yes.
That would be great. Like,
Yep.
that's a good idea.
Any other questions on Public Works? Okay. Selectmen? Any questions?
Yeah, that's just the selectmen's budget.
Okay.
I will note, I just note that the services there, that's the town report, right, Kathy?
Yes, okay.
Yes, so that's a one-time thing that will happen in the spring.
Okay. Moving down to school town.
Yep, that's a school. We transfer money to them as they need it. So it stays in our account for an interest. And they send us their warrants, we send them their money.
Moving down to senior center.
So the senior center was again one of those that we just didn't know what would happen because of COVID this year. A lot of what they do are their two suppers that they do twice a month. We didn't really anticipate that there would be a whole lot of that going on, but they picked it up. And as you can see, they've already brought in the revenue that we expected for the whole year already. So yeah, it's good to see that. That means the personnel line that we didn't think we'd spend a whole lot of money on, we're spending a whole lot of money on. So we're going to have to make sure that we try to save that in other areas to keep this budget within what it was budgeted for.
Any questions? Okay. Moving down to Shellfish.
So any town that has an ordinance, Shellfish ordinance that limits the amount of licenses and the amount of out-of-town people that can harvest shellfish have to have a program. That's what this takes care of. It takes care of the shellfish warden, who happens to be Jonathan Barnes, one of our police officers. The license revenue, again, is one of those one-time, once-a-year thing that happens in the spring. And the rest of it is shellfish warden and the time that he puts in doing that.
Any questions there? Okay. Down to TIF.
This is the TIF for right now. That's a one-time payment each year as well. It just hasn't happened yet.
What is TIF?
Tax Increment Financing District.
Tax?
A tax increment financing district. So a TIF is an economic tool that towns can use to help with economic development. So the TIF that's being voted on in December for the school project for the senior housing, what happens with that is there's the existing value of the building now, which is, I think, somewhere around $725,000. There's going to be some substantial improvements in the building, as well as maybe some new buildings out back. We estimate, when that's all done, we estimate that project will be worth somewhere in the vicinity of $16 million. So the difference between the 725 and the 16 million is what's known as the captured value. So what happens when you add that $16 million to the town's overall tax valuation? It changes the formula from the state. Excuse me. So the higher our state valuation is, the less state revenue sharing we get, the less school money we get, and the higher our county taxes become. With a TIF, that additional revenue that we get, the additional value that we get, is shielded from the state. So they can't pull that revenue from us. So this lasts for a period of time, depending on what it is. I think the Rhinell TIF is either 20 or 30 years. I think it might have been 10 and went to 20. Bill Maloney, I think, probably knows better than I do. But for whatever that period of time is, we won't lose that additional revenue from the state. And it's estimated that we lose about 30 cents on every additional dollar that we pick up. So this keeps that money here in town. But those TIF revenues basically can only be used for certain things. They can't just be, used to offset the tax burden.
Bill?
Yeah, Dennis, I think this was an unusually, my experience, short period. Wasn't it just 10 years on this TIF?
For the school is only 7.
I'm talking about the
for Rhinell.
No, the new one, the elderly.
Yeah, so for the school project, right now it's proposed as a 7-year TIF.
Okay.
But we do have the option of, so one of the issues that we had with doing this is they want to move forward fairly quickly with this. And the selectmen need a little bit of time, and the community needs a little bit of time to figure out what do we want to do with those TIF revenues. And we didn't really come up with a whole lot of great ideas right off the bat, because the water, the sewer, and some of the infrastructure stuff that obviously would be used for that TIF is already in place there that we didn't need to do. So we went with the 7-year TIF because they want 5 years on their credit enhancement agreement, and it's going to take them 2 years to get it built. We do have the option of going off and amending this TIF later. So now we have 7 years that we can have this discussion of what do we want to do with this TIF revenue. And I've come up with some ideas already that I would throw out. But this just gets the project moving, and at the same time buys us some time to do some due diligence as to how we want to handle this.
Right. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Other questions? Okay. Moving on to transfer station.
Transfer station is one of those budgets that I said I had some concerns about. Obviously, their revenue is doing well. Cardboard prices have gone way up. Metal prices are way up. I think that's a reflection of the economy itself going along pretty well. The expenses is where I'm a little concerned. Last year, we refinanced a lot of equipment loans that we had. We had several loans at several different interest rates, and we refinanced all of them, or we thought we refinanced all of them so that we could take advantage of the low interest rates that was going on. What we didn't realize is that there was an equipment loan for the transfer station for a tractor with John Deere that we did not include in part of that, and we didn't budget for it. So that was why the debt service is over by $18,000. because we didn't have that in there. So right now, I'm just watching it very, very carefully. And Ted, is aware of the situation and what it is. But it's one of those things we're going to have to watch very carefully to try to make sure that we can run on the budget here.
Questions?
Question then. So Dennis, it looks like you're tracking overall on target for expenses there.
Yes.
Do you think the trajectory of that debt service, that should be consistent, shouldn't it?
Yes, and I'm concerned, but not concerned enough that I feel we need to do anything about this right now. It's just one of these things that I think that I just need to keep a very close eye on.
Got it. Thank you.
Kim?
I've wondered for a while, what kind of overlap does our transfer station have with what the county provides?
The county does, a lot of recycling over there. They actually take some of our recycling stuff that we have trouble getting rid of. But they don't do the overall, the trash that goes to the landfill, which is, one of the bigger things that gets done out there. I mean, we're still hauling 2 and 3 loads a week just to the landfill.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Just one more question on that. This is back on the other thing that we discussed before, the Alna Westport Island. Is it just Alna and Westport Island use the transfer station, Dennis?
Yes. Yeah.
And is there a discussion to be had if our debt service goes up that we, change the rates that they pay next year?
The rates are based on population rate currently. Okay. So again, anything's on the table. I mean, I'm not adverse to having any conversation about what we need to be doing. I know that in the past, previous Alna select boards did not like the way this contract was laid out. They didn't think it was fair because they felt that Westport Island, even though their year-round populations are similar, Westport Island has a lot of summer people, and Westport Island should be paying a bigger budget than Alna. But if you look at what Edgecombe and some of the others are paying, like Kim Dolce has done with the community center, I've done with the transfer station, and look at some of what the other communities are paying, like Booth Bay Regional transfer down there. They're getting a pretty decent deal. So I think this is something, another one of these things that just really needs to be looked at.
Yeah, it certainly looks at the top level, what's in this chart, that they're getting a more than fair deal.
Yep, they will disagree with us on that, but Alna does have a different select board over there now, and they've got kind of their own issues that they're dealing with. So,
any other questions on the transfer station?
No comment.
We all have them. I'm not picking on them.
Okay, moving down to the waterfront.
Waterfront, revenues, again, a lot of that stuff it just happens when it happens. Mooring fees get paid in the spring, both excise tax, gets paid in the spring. So that's why the revenues are down. I certainly expect they'll pop up through. And you can see the budget, we did pretty well this year, but that will stay that way through the winter because there's not a whole lot of activity down there. And then some of the supplies and repairs will start ticking up a little bit as Ted starts pulling floats out, and in the spring start having to repair to put back. So just be prepared to see this change a lot in the spring when things happen.
Any questions on the waterfront? Kim?
What has changed about the waterfront that has caused the budget? 2 years ago, the budget was close to $45,000, and we're looking at close to 62,000 now. What? That's a big change for a fairly small budget.
Kim, I'd have to look. I know we put money in the budget this year, extra money in the budget this year because last year we closed the bathrooms and didn't do them. This year we opened them, but we had to clean them constantly because of COVID. So we did put extra money in the budget this year to account for that. Certainly not $20,000. I think it was $6 or something like that. But And I can tell you some of the repairs and maintenance are going up because some of the floats are just getting older and needing more work. So off the top of my head, I think that's where those increases come from, but I can look it up and get back to you.
Okay.
I'll add it to my list.
Any other questions? Okay. Comprehensive plan.
Yeah, you guys got to get going and spending that money because we've carried this over for like 3 years now.
I'll be spending some this week because
I know, I know.
will be going out.
I saw the emails.
Girls like to spend money.
All right. Moving down to state revenue. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, state revenue.
So state revenues, this is the money that we get from the state. And I think I saw an email from some of the budget committee members about what state revenue sharing was. State revenue sharing is the state sets aside a portion of the state sales tax, provider tax, and income tax to distribute back to the various cities and towns. It's varied over the years how much that is. When Paul LePage was governor, he pretty much tried to cut it completely down to zero. Governor Mills has gone the opposite direction and has been increasing it each year. This year it's 4.5%. So they 4.5% of those funds and set it aside to return back to the cities and towns. How that's determined is a very complicated formula based on population, based on state value, and some couple of other things. So we estimated, and again, this is an estimate. The state revenue forecasting committee will come out in the spring with what they think it's going to be, and then we can take that figure and do what we want with it. Their figure for us this year was 623,000, but not knowing how the economy was going to go in the spring, I didn't dare to go quite that high with it. So I estimated that we'd be a little less. As you can see from this, the economy has done exceptionally well. They're getting money in at a good clip up there, and they are giving it back to us. So we will run ahead on state revenue sharing this year, which is good for us. That'll help us out on the bottom line at the end of the year. The Betty, the next one down, that's the business equipment tax that the state, some of the business equipment that we're not permitted to tax, the state reimburses us for. We just haven't received that yet. The homestead exemption, everybody that takes that $25,000 homestead exemption, which reduces the amount of money we get for property taxes, the state helps reimburse us for that. And you can see we were pretty much on target as to what we thought we were going to get there. The LRAP is the Local Roads Assistance Program. That's similar to the state revenue sharing. They take a certain amount of the gas tax that's collected every year and return that to the towns through the LRAP program. We budgeted 44,000. I do know we're going to get almost 52,000 out of that. So that actually should be showing up anytime because we had to have that report in by November. And it was 51,000 and change. So we're going to be ahead on that as well. Tree growth is, again, another one of those deductions that you get off your property taxes. The state reimburses. We just haven't gotten that yet. The tower lease gets paid quarterly. Veterans exemptions, you can see we pretty much were on target with that as well. And the general assistance that I mentioned earlier that they reimburse us from, that just comes once a year, I think. Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong. So anyways. You were there?
Any questions there?
So you can see that, our revenue, that particular area of revenue, we're doing very well on. So.
Kim, did you have a question?
I did. That question in one of the emails was mine. I wondered if any of that sales tax revenue sharing related to how much sales tax is collected in any given community.
No, it's
okay.
just statewide. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Any other questions there? Okay. Moving down to taxes.
These are the ones that we grab from you folks every year. The tax commitment. The supplemental was a tax bill, an additional tax bill that got sent out this year for a property tax that had a building built on it that the assessor wasn't aware of. Excise tax is running ahead. Rapid renewal is also as excise tax, but that's the ones that you guys do online. You know, excise tax is one of those things that I struggle with each year. You wonder, are people going to keep buying new cars year in and year out? They seem to, because we always seem to underestimate this. And I'm just amazed at the number of people that come in and register new vehicles. At some point, you would think that would happen, because remember, when, you know, the first year you register your car is the highest year, the excise tax goes down for a period of time after that. So at some point you would expect that the excise tax, that this would catch up, that people would buy, just don't keep buying new cars year in and year out, but they seem to. I've talked with other town managers that say the same thing. They're always just amazed that this stays up. So, I mean, we've done well on that as well.
Any questions here? Okay, moving down to charges.
So tax interest is what we charge on past due taxes, which, you know, to say we're doing well on that is not good, because, you know, that means that people haven't paid their taxes. Same with the lien fees. The lien fees can be a little deceptive because, you know, we file a lien, at some point they come in and pay that off. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that people aren't paying their taxes, they're just paying them late. And lien fees also include sewer liens. And I'm signing off sewer liens constantly because, you know, people get the bill and then come back. And, you know, it would be a shame to lose your house because you didn't pay $1,100 sewer bill. So that's what those are. Agent fees are what we collect for motor vehicle, doing motor vehicle registrations and some of the other state stuff that we do, hunting, fishing licenses and so forth. Yeah, I think the rest of that's pretty self-explanatory.
Any questions there? Kim?
Sorry. I know we're getting into some pretty small stuff here, but I would love to see a consideration of actually charging for a business license. It's not unheard of in most towns. It's something nominal, $50, and maybe a renewal fee that's substantially smaller than that, because this is all paperwork that has to be processed and it's taking up somebody's time.
It is. It's staff time that does have to happen. We did start charging for temporary business licenses this year, which they haven't done in the past. We did set those fees. But again, you know, it takes staff time, and it takes my time, it takes Kathy's time, It takes state board time to have to approve these. So.
Sharon, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I was asking, Dennis, what about charging interest on these lien fees or these sewer fees?
They do get charged interest. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Anything that's overdue is charged interest.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. And down to other revenue.
So the first one is the cable TV fees that we receive for the cable franchise. I think it's 5% of their gross revenue in town. So given the fact that we've done pretty well on that, I'd say people are subscribing to Spectrum at a pretty decent pace. Bank interest is, you know, just what we get on our checking account and things like that. The main Yankee is their impact fee, which gets paid twice a year. Miscellaneous is, you know, whatever. The insurance dividend, we didn't anticipate that year. That was a dividend check we got for doing well on our workers' comp. Nsf fees, you know, we've had a few bad checks. The very bottom one, the use of the fund balance, you can kind of disregard that. That's more of a placeholder for us. That was the funds that we carried over this year from that weren't expended last year. So that's why that shows only 25% collected, but that was an internal thing. So.
Any questions? Okay. All right, I believe that's the end. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dennis and Kathy in particular, for going through all of those. I do want to keep an eye on the time, but in terms of 1B, discussion of long-term budgeting of capital requests, I wanted to turn this over to Bill, I think, to start this conversation off.
Sarah, can I make just one more comment before we move on? I think it was Tom that one of his emails asked about budget overall. So overall, as of this morning, with all of our budget, we're at 30% of the 37% of our entire budget year. So
thank you.
So we're on track.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
We have, I'm going to have 3 people ask them to talk. Kim, you want to start this off?
Sure. I had 2 broad categories of or topics that I was hoping that we could either discuss jointly, or if the select board felt that it was inappropriate thing for the budget committee to be involved in, that maybe the budget or the selectmen would consider discussing this at your regular meetings. 3 years ago, I was not on the budget committee, but was geeky enough to go to all of the budget workshops. And I was given all of the handouts at the time. And one of them was a memorandum that John O'Connell put together. It was looking as if taxes were going to go up yet again. And the memo included 10 or so items to discuss going forward, how to rein in spending, increase revenue, all of the different possibilities, so that we weren't facing a particularly big increase in taxes like we did several years ago with the 14.2%. So I was hoping that that might be a topic of discussion, either jointly or with the select board on your own. And the other was 2 years ago, which I would turn it back to Bill. And that was, Bill raised the idea of a discussion of a 5-year plan for capital spending. And both of these things, when mentioned originally, received pretty broad interest and appeal, but neither of them has happened in the years since.
And Kim, would it be possible to get, I'm guessing, I definitely have not seen the memo you're talking about from John O'Connell.
I will send it. I was not thinking everyone on the budget committee received it. Okay. I think Dennis should have a copy as well, because I think Dennis is on that email thread, but I will send it to the select board members.
Thank you.
I have it somewhere here in the office anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Tom, you want to jump on this? You had a lot of questions earlier.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add, except that I am curious about whether, look, I'm not terribly experienced with town government, so I don't know if other towns are typically doing a capital budget, but I think it's a very useful thing to have. Certainly every business that I've been involved with has spent time with capital budgeting, and I'd be happy to spend some time working on it, as Kim suggested. I think it would be a useful thing to have. I think as a general principle, it would be very helpful for things like, when we go forward with these warrants for things like police cars, to be able to show people, there is a 5-year plan. We do have an understanding of how it's going to roll out. We have a notion of how many we need over time, and just as importantly, that the impact on a year-to-year basis is less than that big bite you have every time you see this sticker shock for a new police car. And I think that would be a very valuable thing to have for all the capital items. It certainly would be helpful in future budget discussions to be able to break out, look, what is our capital expense versus the operating expenses to keep these things going. But again, I don't know, is that something that the municipalities typically do?
Thank you. Anna, did you want to say anything?
Sure, I can. So as we were discussing all of this, I realized that I, at least, don't have an understanding of how the financial health of the town has changed over time. And I think it would be helpful if we had access to 3 to 5 years of balance sheets and P&Ls so we could see how much money is in each account, how it's changing, and then we can make more informed decisions if we do take upon the capital budgeting. Because it seems when there's been discussions about taxes, and at least when I've been listening to these discussions, it seems that a lot of them happen in a vacuum. And we hear things like hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent from this fund over X period of years, but we don't know if that means that we're depleting the fund or if we're in fact spending less than the fund is earning in interest each year. And I think that information would be very helpful for these discussions.
Anyone else for the committee have anything to say?
I agree with Anna. I think that that would be valuable information to see how we're spending and what's coming in, so we can make more informed decisions of budgeting. Be helpful.
The committee, in past years, this has been a major thing. We'd like to be a little more part of this. And Dennis has laid some foundations on this with some spreadsheets about with the capital expenditures. You want to talk about that, Dennis?
Sure. So I actually asked Bill to help me with this quite some time ago, because it's just, you know, I have so many things going on that I have to kind of sometimes reach out and ask for help. I probably should more often than I do. And Bill actually is the one that got this going for me. Now, I had sent him a list of some assets that we had. Since that time, I've been building on that. There are a lot of assets in this town that I don't think we think about every year, and some that I didn't even know about. There's some buildings out on Huntoon Hill Road that I didn't even know we owned. So I've added considerably, Bill, to what you've done, putting buildings and stuff in here. Now, I think a lot of the capital expenses that people think of here, we think about plow trucks and we think about police cruisers and we think about ambulances, but you know, there's more to that. There's this building here that was built in 1967. It's got a 30-year heating system in it. At some point, that's going to have to be replaced, and it's going to have to be replaced pretty darn soon. The roof is going to have to be replaced at some point. So as far as capital planning, yes, it absolutely needs to be done, and it is being done. And if, you know, I don't control what boards and committees do. That's entirely up to the select board. If the budget committee has, you know, I will take advantage of what help I can get and what knowledge I can get from people. If the budget committee would like to form like a subcommittee that would be interested in helping me work on this, you know, I would welcome that. But I would ask that it not be 9 budget committee members and 5 selectmen members all getting into this. I would ask for a subcommittee of like 3 people that could come into the office and sit down and go over some of this stuff. The list is fairly extensive. And Anna, as far as your request on there, the town audits are available at any time. There is an audit done every year. I will have to tell you that the auditors are behind. They haven't even finished the fiscal year 20 audit yet, let alone get into fiscal year 21. And I've been on the phone with him frequently the last couple of weeks to light a fire under his butt and get stuff done. But that information is available to you, and some of it's already online. As far as the accounts, every month the selectmen get a report as to what's in our capital reserve accounts. And I can tell you emphatically that we're not spending more, or haven't, at least recently, than what they've earned. That fund started with $10 million in it like 10 years ago. And it currently has over 13 million in it now. And we've taken money out of it every single year. So we're not spending it faster than it's making it. Now, the caveat with that is, as we all know, the stock market's done exceptionally well over the last few years. And even talking with Dan Lay, who manages these funds for us, you know, they're surprised that it's continued to do this well. At some point, it's probably going to turn around, and we're going to have to, you know, take that into consideration. But, you know, that's where that's at right at the moment. There is an investment advisory committee here in town that meets quarterly with Dan and HM Payson to go over these investments to make sure that they're in the best place that they can be. And so, you know, that's being watched very carefully as well.
One of
Kim
the,
Anderson. Oh,
Yeah, I
Bill,
just
if you don't
wanted to-
mind.
go ahead, Kim.
I just wanted to point out that the budget committee has some limitations on what it is actually able to do. There's an ordinance that covers the work you can do, and I don't know that you can actually have a subcommittee like you're describing, Dennis, unless we take it to the taxpayers. I remember when the first time I got on budget committee, I was really enthusiastic and wanted to meet with department heads and really learn how things were. And Judy Flanagan set me straight pretty quickly. There's an ordinance that covers it, and it's pretty well limited.
Actually, it's not limited. It tells you what you have to do. It doesn't tell you what you can do. But going back to the spreadsheet that Dennis has got, one of the things that it's got on there, just taking a truck, for example, the year the truck was purchased, what it was purchased for, the dollar amount, today's value, how many years are left in it, and what's the replacement value. And that's each department head can update that each year. So we have a better understanding of where our expenses are going to come up.
And we're in the process of doing that work right now. I had Ted in here this morning for 2 hours going over a whole lot of stuff. And the fire chief is coming in this week to go through some of his stuff. You know, there's some concerns here. I mean, we know that there's a lot of infrastructure in this town. We know there's a lot of things that have been put off. We know we have the money to make it right. So let's make it right. To Kim's point, yes, the ordinance tells the budget committee does not have any authority. It's an advisory committee only. There is a provision in there that does allow them to form subcommittees within themselves if they wish to. And that's why I brought this up. You know, again, I don't control boards and committees, so you know, that's a select board thing.
Right. We're offering our help. It would also help us to understand in the budget process what's going on. So leave it at that.
I
Thank you,
agree.
Bill.
I agree. Thank you, Bill, because it would give us a better understanding to make a 5-year plan. So we don't end up with these things that just come up and we have to figure out where the money's coming from, and our taxes keep going up.
Well,
I think it's a good advisory subcommittee to help us figure out what needs to be replaced, how long it's going to last for even future committee members on the budget committee. So they don't just like go, oh, what are we doing? Like this just happened. It's planning, and I think it's a good idea.
It's helpful. Remember, it is going to be a living document because things are going to pop up that, you know, I know everybody wants to think that some people in town think that, you know, June town meeting is it. We don't do anything else until the next June town meeting. Well, I'm sorry, but they don't like special town meetings, but there are times that they just have to happen. You know, there are things that are time sensitive that just needs to get done. But it's a great foundation to work from. So, you know, I'm all on board with doing this capital planning stuff, and with, you know, with Bill's help, we're working towards getting it done. So
I guess I'd suggest that perhaps the select board put this on an agenda to make some sort of determination on how we want to move forward, because I think it does make a lot of sense for the work to be done. And whether it's an official subcommittee or advisory committee or part of something else doesn't really matter to me personally, but I think it makes sense to take advantage of people who know something about this and have done work on it and want to do work on it, because everybody here is certainly busy. So, and no one more than you, Dennis. So I think that's it. I'm very happy to hear that this is something that you're all interested in. So I think that might make sense. Pam?
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to point out that the Budget Committee is a committee by ordinance. It's not one of the Board of Selectmen's committees. So I think if Dennis wanted to invite them to send some people to him as a resource, I think he could just decide to do that. This is a town committee. It's not set by the select board. So it's run by ordinance. I think Dennis could just reach out the way he just did and ask for 3 volunteers to come help him. So that's just my opinion. I don't think we need a discussion at a meeting on it or taking a vote. I think it's just up to the town manager to decide what resources the town already has that he can reach out and use.
We're gonna just leave it in your hands. We're concerned about it. We'd like to help, and we'll let you decide. Thank you.
I mean, I'm fine with what Pam just said. I don't know if Terry, Dusty, or Kim Anderson have other. No?
I mean,
Dusty?
look, I reach out to people for help all the time, and it does, just the fact that they happen to be the, members of the budget committee. I mean, I don't think we're giving them any authority that they shouldn't have. I mean, they're just, they're going to be helping me with this. That's all it amounts to.
Dusty?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm glad to hear this discussion. I've been trying to do this in a sense on my own since I got elected to the select board, just with the end I've been looking for and trying to request and get access to so that I can basically get the answers that we're all talking about right now. So yeah, it's got my support.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you guys got my email back. Dusty, I can send you some of this information as a spreadsheet. You don't need to make up your own spreadsheets. That's a lot of work that you really didn't need to do.
I want the information in the spreadsheet. You can consider yourself officially asked and requested right now.
Okay.
I somehow failed to make that clear in September that I wanted a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened because, yeah, I would not have spent all those hours manually entering numbers if it was possible the other way.
Yep, it is possible. So.
All right. Well, thank you. So Dennis, we'll have you just move ahead with that. So thank you, Bill, and others for volunteering your hours and services there.
Thank you for what you do every day for Wiscasset.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We have one more thing.
Actually, yep. Okay, we just need the business license. So actually, budget committee members, you're welcome to depart anytime. We just have one more thing to vote on. But
Have a good night.
thank you very much for being here and for the discussion. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great meeting. Good meeting, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do I get out of here?
Wait.
All right. So Dennis sent around an extra set of info for the business license. Anybody want to make a motion?
Already said so move, and now I can't remember the name of the business or the person. So move. I'm sure there's a way to do this. What is it?
I think if I may, it's probably appropriate for you guys to take a vote on amending the agenda because it's not on the agenda. So.
Right.
Oh, all right.
I move to amend the agenda to include discussion on the business license.
I second.
Moved by Pam, seconded by Terry. Calling for a vote. Pam,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Dusty,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
I vote yes. It's on the agenda. All right. Who would like to make a motion on the business license?
Looking it up as fast as I can. Dennis, what's the name of the?
Mary Kate Aesthetics and Company.
Thank you.
I think it's, isn't it Ashley Kate?
I'm sorry, Ashley Kate. Yes, Ashley Kate Aesthetics and Company.
Not the twins, Mary Kate and Ashley.
Okay. I move that we approve the business license for Ashley Kate Cosmetics. No.
Aesthetic.
Aesthetics.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by Pam, calling for any discussion. All right, calling for a vote. Pam,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Dusty,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passes. All right.
Jackie-
Now,
Jackie was on here tonight, right? So she's taking notes. Oh, yeah, okay.
Jackie's still here. Quickly before we adjourn, Susan, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Yep. Could I get that business license application emailed to me, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you do,
Oh,
I would
yep.
like a copy of that business license application also.
Oh, Charlotte, you're making my life miserable.
I enjoy doing that.
You know I would be happy to do that for you.
Thank you.
Can I have one too?
Anybody else?
Thank you.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kim, seconded by Terry. Calling for a vote. Pam,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Dusty,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
and I vote yes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time, particularly a long time here. I think that was a good step in the right direction in terms of getting the budget process started. So
Good
Thank
meeting.
good night, everyone.